Hello, everybody, and welcome back to All Walks of Life. This is All Walks of Light. Look, I don't even know what it's called. All Walks of Light. This is Kim E.
Hey, it's Shanell.
Hey, how's it going? Nick Salzman here with y'all again.
Yeah, Nick Salzman, you guys asked and we delivered. So out of all the podcasts we've done, Nick's episode had well over 100 views. And one of the comments was from one of the women who wanted to buy his books and his pendulums. And if you guys listened to his last episode, and if you didn't, go back, it's episode 6. But we brought Nick back on to talk more about the pendulums and definitely have some more questions about the gin as well. But Nick does sell them. He has amazing books, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to Nick because we've got a lot to talk about, and he actually has his pendulum. So you're definitely going to want to watch the YouTube video as well if you're just listening, because you'll get to see them on the video. So I'm going to pass the mic to you, Nick.
No problem. Hey, you guys. Hope you guys are doing well today. I got a handful of my pendulums with me at the moment. I don't have all of them with me, but I will tell you about some of them that I'm currently using. Okay. So the first thing you need to understand with a pendulum is that it's only a tool. And it's a tool to help give us leverage with what we're wanting to do with energy. I think that's the best way I can describe it. A lot of people can use a pendulum for dowsing, getting their yes or no questions, taking some sort of a percentage, or even just getting like a general reading or something, right? So that's dowsing. What I do with it is a little bit different. It's more along the lines of probably pendulum healing is a little bit, I think, clearer of what I do. But understand that when we do the clearing and the healing, there is a part of us that we are tapping into that is attached to very, very powerful creative nature. Okay. You can call it your soul. You can call it your higher self. You can call it what you want. But what we have the ability to do is use this pendulum not only to give us tangible feedback on a question, but we also have the ability to give us a strength in a certain direction. Now, there's different dowsers that are out there that may agree with me or disagree with me on this. One of the older practices is radiesthesis. These people, it was developed in France, I believe. But these people basically found the different qualities of light, different colors of light, different spectrums of light, and they were able to start investigating how to use these therapeutically. So for me, I believe that there is certain qualities of light. I mean, we can look up in the sky and see a rainbow and see the different colors of light. We are familiar with our chakras and our chakras being associated with different colors of light. Okay, so that's all good to understand. But like I said, what I've found is using certain colors give you certain leverage in areas to help heal people and heal animals. So one of the biggest things I work with a lot is a lot of energy clearing of like non-beneficial energies, but primarily a lot of entities. And so that'll be probably the first colors we're going to talk about first. When I use a blue spectrum pendulum, when my pendulum generates a blue energy, this is a revitalizing energy. This is something that we can use to help heal energy bodies. This is something we can use to help send life force. Now, this isn't the only one that we can send it with, but I think it's the strongest one that we can send this with. Okay, so some of my blue energy pendulums. Now, forgive me if I don't have as much light in here that you can see. Sorry for the blue light, but it's the only one I got. This one I've been using a lot lately is my Nova pendulum. This one actually has a blue-green frequency, and we'll talk a little bit about green here in a minute. But I like this one. It's super responsive. I used a Nova a lot in the beginning, and I really like using it. But the blue energy itself.
I'm so sorry because I want to put these in the notes. The blue is what? The blue light.
It's like a revitalizing energy.
Revitalizing. Okay.
So anytime you're using a blue energy pendulum or anytime that's in there, it's going to be great for revitalizing energy. There's a few other models that I have. One, it's a little bit newer that I've been working with. I'll try and stay on topic, but some of you guys that follow what I do, I talk a lot about some of the old world technology and Antiquitech and learning how to get harvest energy through the ether of the atmosphere and stuff. And so some of this technology, I've styled some of my pendulum models out of it, and I've been messing with them and found some pretty cool results. So one of the other ones that I use, this right here, this is called my Moore pendulum. This one is inspired by Antiquitech. This stuff you would see on spires on top of buildings, and it was able to help induce free energy with inside the building, and you can do some really neat stuff. So this is a blue energy pendulum. What I find, a pendulum like this, or a pendulum like my Anubis, which is also a blue light pendulum. Okay. This Anubis and this Moore pendulum have a natural offset to be able to clear multiple non-human entities. So that's what I've found.
From you.
What's up? What's
that
up?
more one. I was like, I might need that one from you. I got some ancestral clearing I gotta do. And I'm like, I might need something that's gonna pack a punch like that one. That second one, Shanell, did you see how it was like moving?
His pendulums are I have one of his pendulums right here with me. I love them.
I have one.
I love them.
The one that I have from you, Nick, I only use specifically for the Akashic records. I bought the rainbow one. It's like so beautiful.
The Furba, right?
Yeah.
Your Furba?
Yes, that is.
That's a good one.
Only for the Akashic records. Yeah.
I love it.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. So yeah, these pendulums work well for clearing human entities, but like I said, I deal with a lot of non-human entities. We talk a lot about the jinn, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But these are the ones I primarily use for the jinn. Is my Moore pendulum and the Anubis, which I know Shanell, you have one of the Anubises too.
Yeah, I love it. We talked about that clearing I did for that woman and stuff. It's very, very powerful. I love using the light as well that goes with the pendulum. It really helps. You can just feel everything shift in my client, like, because it just, when you give so much to one energy, it kind of disperses through the rest. It's really cool. It worked really good.
Nice. So, like I said, blue is something that can revitalize the human energy field. It can revitalize it even after death. So that's something you can just know. So what we'll get into, I have a couple other pendulums we can talk about. I know that Nova's a blue-green, and I just showed you my blue light pendulums. Now I'm going to show you green, okay? And that green pendulum I have with me right now is that Furba. It's the same one you talked about doing the Akashic records with.
Yeah.
So you're going to hear some old thoughts and theories about green being called negative green energy. I think this is an old term, and I don't necessarily agree with the connotation that it is a negative energy or it's something that can be harmful when you're around, okay? So what I've found is that green energy itself is a carrier wave. This is something that if I wanted to do a clearing or I wanted to send a blessing, let's say to the past, maybe there was an event, something horrible, and I wanted to send healing back to that past event, right? One of the things I work a lot with is kids that have ADHD and like sensory issues. And so I'll work on the kid and I'll use it at the time of conception. And then from there, I start angling my healing from there because I like sending it to the past to bring energy to the future. So green energy is a carrier wave and it can pierce all the way back in time and send it all the way into the future. So just to give you a quick kind of recap of what I've done with this Furba, talking about the sensory issues. I had a lady reach out to me one time and her daughter wouldn't like to go outside. She hated taking baths. She just didn't like the feeling of getting wet. And anytime they go to the store, she would always just kind of sit balled up in the basket, covering her ears and burying her head. It was overload, right? Just being around people and the lights, it was overload.
Wow.
Yeah. So someone reached out to me and was like, hey, can you do anything about this? And I said, well, I don't know. I said, let me try it. So I grabbed my Furba pendulum and then I said, universal knowledge. And you always do a prayer of protection before you do this stuff. Get into the habit of it. If you want to use a pendulum, do a prayer of protection. If you don't know what to say, a simple one that got me started is, under the light of God, I ask for your protection. And that's how I started off. Okay. Really, really easy one to do. So I got a picture of this child. And I looked at him in the eyes and then I said, universal knowledge. I said, can you take me to the moment of conception when the sperm and the egg met from the parents of this child? And it spun. And once it got to its balanced out area, and you'll see it too, what it'll do is it'll kind of like spin. And then for me, when it gets to that time where it's ready, it goes to this little balance right here where it just goes back and forth. For me, that's what it does. And I say, okay, at this point, what I want to do, universal knowledge, do I have permission to contact the higher selves of both parents that are pretty much attached at this point, right? So I give my permission. And from there, I start working on clearing all the stagnant mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual energy stored within all energy bodies, physical bodies, chakras. You just got to be creative and say where it goes. But long story short, I asked to neutralize all stagnant, emotional, physical trauma stored within both parents. Okay, clear that up. And now I asked to send blue-green energy because with this being a carrier wave, right? It's a carrier wave. I'm asking to send blue energy. I'm asking to send green energy. And now it's going to be able to take it back in time for me. So I said to to please change the color of the energy color of this fetus to blue-green energy, optimizing happiness, growth, well-being, and perfect formation. So from there, it spins, and then it gets back out to its balance. Okay. Then I say, okay, I now ask to send a blessing to all medical staff, everybody involved with the birth of this child. I said, bless all medical staff, all parents, everybody involved. Okay, do that. And then I say, okay, from there, I ask to bring that healing into the present moment. And so it will get my spin again. Okay. Then once I get back to my balance, then we're good. Okay. So that's pretty much how I work with this kid as I went back and neutralized all the trauma and kind of witnessed like perfect formation of this fetus, bless the entire medical staff a part of this. So that way all of their work is done for the highest good of all. And then from there, asked to bring that healing into the present moment. And so I didn't hear anything for a little bit, right? And usually if you don't hear anything, then it's a good thing.
Right.
If you do hear something, then maybe you missed, right?
Start
But like I
over.
said, I never did this. I never tried this angle before. It was just something that felt right, and I went with it. And so I ended up hearing back from the lady about a week and a half later, and she was just overjoyed because her daughter's been going outside and playing with her brothers. That was a big thing, going outside playing with her brothers. She loves bath time now. Bath time is her favorite time and doesn't seem to have the issues as much going in the store. So, can we do anything about it? Who knows? But the only thing I know is I didn't know that I couldn't. And so I wanted to just give it a try and go with it. So getting back to the leverage part, right? Why would we use a different color pendulum? I said, if I was standing in a baseball park, right, I could grab a baseball and I could throw it pretty far, right? But if I threw that baseball up in the air and I grabbed a bat and I nailed that bat, I'm still using my energy, right? I'm not using anything beyond my physical capabilities. But because I have that bat, I'm giving myself leverage to knock it even farther. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so what I'm doing is I'm using a pendulum that generates a certain color spectrum that gives me a natural offset or disposition for the right application. So this has been a study and practice of mine for probably solid the past 8 years, is developing this stuff. Okay. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I like following up with, Shanell, you have one of these. This is the prayer pendulum. Okay, it's a little bit different.
Yeah,
this is my prayer pendulum. This is a white light pendulum. Now, white light, what I find is really good for one, balancing chakras. It's really good for balancing chakras. You can do a general chakra balance on any chakras with this thing. The white light pendulum, when I'm doing a clearing on someone's house or I'm doing a clearing on a person, I will follow it up. When I'm done using the blue or using the blue-green, I will follow it up with one of these prayer pendulums. And that's to balance, all the chakras, bring them into perfect alignment and allow them to have a healthy spin that will serve their highest good health and well-being. You make it up as you go. Whatever sounds good to you works, but just know that it can help balance the chakra. Plus, it's also good for placing blessings on homes and people. So when I'm doing a clearing of someone's house and I'm removing some stuff that doesn't need to be there, I will change the color back to blue-green energy with my pendulum, and then I will follow it up with a prayer pendulum. And one of these times I'm going to do like a point of view video and just show people like my actual process and how I go in and out of it, right? So using that white pendulum, the white light pendulum, I'm going to place a thought form of love and protection on the home. I'm going to ask that all that sleep in this house rest peacefully throughout the night, undisturbed, and to wake up refreshed with confidence to take on the day's challenges. Like that's what I usually do. Or I can ask to fill the house with the white light of Christ or the white light of Source. Seems to really, really hold it well. And so anybody that's also into like manifestation work or like setting your intentions on stuff, this is a really, really good one to use as well. So I would definitely recommend that.
So
I was going to say,
you go ahead. You go first.
No, I was just going to say with this pendulum, with the situation I had in my house, when I shifted my energy with that and sending blessings and like setting the intention that I love my home and it's a safe place and I'm not going to be harmed in my home. And I set all these intentions and my house, that was when my behavior and my dogs improved and everything just shifted. Shelby started healing. It like literally made a blanket of healing over my entire house and everything in it. Like even my plants grew better. Like it was the coolest thing. It was awesome. So yeah, it's a great thing to use that pendulum for that, to just ask for blessings and safety and protection of your home. And I like set an intention that it just always be filled with love and a high vibration and that there's always healing taking place and like opening. And I just made this like big long prayer and it was like literally within like, I felt it immediately, but I noticed a change like immediately. It was amazing. The pendulum's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, I was
You
gonna
know,
say
and one,
you
go ahead, Kim.
when you clear a house, so you use two pendulums, you use one to like clear it out, and then you use that prayer one to bring in the white light. So do you use two different ones when you're clearing out a house?
Typically I will. I don't always need to, but typically I will. You know, it just kind of depends on how much time I have at the moment or, you know, really what's going on. But when I can, I'll do that. But for sure, anytime I'm working on somebody with like cancer or any kind of like sickness like that, I'll work on them with the blue or the green pendulums, and then I'll follow it up with the white one for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get one of those because when I do the clear, like I just did one today, I do the sage. Then, obviously where spirit guides me, I pick out which pendulum or which believer I'm gonna take, and then I, recenter the house. But that prayer pendulum with the white light, I'm like,
But I'd
things,
like
things I need to buy from Nick Salzman.
so this will be one that I'll talk a little bit about. Like I said, I'll try and stay on topic, but the different lights of pendulum is really important to talk about, and especially with our lady listeners and even our guy listeners that are out there. I use a Hikal pendulum. I don't have one with me, but I use my Hikal pendulum, which generates an infrared frequency. And this infrared frequency I find is very interesting because I can do something really neat with it. So when a woman loses child, whether it's miscarriage, abortion, stillborn, or even like an absorbed twin, we'll lose the physical component of that child. But because we're not just physical, we are an energy being, right? What happens is there's like an energetic imprint that's left there, and our emotions can really change that. We can use it to let go and fill that space with love again. Or like what happens a lot is we all of a sudden hold like anger or sadness or despair and that kind of stuff that gets held in that area. So if I was to walk into your house with muddy boots on, right, I'd walk in and you'd see my feet print. Now, if I walked out of your house and left, I'm clearly not in your house anymore, but you can see where I was in your house, right? So when women take on another body inside of them, they're also taking on another part of soul inside of them. So when that part leaves, there is an energetic imprint that is left. And when we hit that imprint with emotions, it can toxify it. So this is what happens when you get an imbalance in the system that can cause a lot of like, yeast infections or just, endometriosis, ovarian cysts, tumors, being very unchecked. This is what leads to like hysterectomies and that kind of stuff or whatever. So using an infrared frequency is something that we can use to help neutralize this. Now, this isn't just affecting women here. This is something that affects men. So let's say a woman has miscarriage, okay? Has miscarriage, has abortion at a teenage years, and then later in life has kids. Those kids, more times than not, are born sensitive. They very much are sensitive, where they all of a sudden are kind of like, they can pick up and perceive on things, or they just can't quite figure out why they feel a certain way, right? A lot of them wake up sensitive or when they're born. But when kids are born to a mother after this happens, there's a chakra that's in between the heart and the throat. It's called the thymus. If you ever look up the thymus chakra, it's called the seat of the soul.
I do a lot of work on the thymus.
Yes.
And so that thymus chakra is connected to everything. It's connected to your circulatory system, your endocrine system, your immune system, your nervous system is connected to all of it. So what I find is there's usually a blockage here because there's an attachment here from this energy, right? And so it's something that we can easily clear, very much so we can easily clear. But if we do not, and we live our life, which I would say probably 80 to 95% of the population probably has this in one way or shape or another. If we don't clear this, these are the kinds of people that not only are sensitive, but probably also have migraines. Later in life, you can develop things like fibromyalgia that are all pretty much connected to this stuff. So when we do the clearing, so if I was a mother, right? If I was a mother and I had what I would call astral fragments, this is what that imprint looks like. This is what I just call an astral fragment. It's not like actual pieces of a kid. It's not actual like pieces of a soul. It's not that way. It's an energetic imprint that is left over. So I just call it a fragment. Okay. So when we have this happen, we can ask to first heal all this stuff, right? We pull out our pendulum and put it over the person. We ask to connect to the higher self of the person. Then we ask, do we have the presence of any astral fragments? We get yes. Now, whether they're in the abdomen or up in the thymus isn't really that important. All we need to address is that they're present and that we would like to work on them. Okay. So from there, you would ask to, cure all astral lesions, depolarize all negative mental stimuli, neutralize toxic emotional trauma. For those of you guys that are not familiar with my terms, just remember, take away the pain, take away the memories of pain, nourish them. That's all you have to remember. Send them nourishing energy. And then from here, here's where it gets different. With most earthbound entities, I don't have to call on a being of light to help. And I'll tell you, the guide that I use that assists me in helping clear the jinn is a different guide than I use that helps me clear astral fragments. So, and the relationship you get to develop with these different guides is going to be incredible. Sometimes people call on Archangel Michael. Sometimes people call on, I think Razel, or I think is like one of the other ones. But for me, who works with me is Master Hilarion. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Master Hilarion. He's an ascended master, but also in his life before that was known as Paul the Apostle. So for whatever reason, he's the one that works well with this, and he's the one that I call upon to help me with this. So after I do the healing, okay, I ask to call upon, a being of light. If you don't have that connection yet, just ask to call upon a being of light to assist you, okay? And then from there, you can have them help gather them and get them back to their core soul, or merge them with their higher self. But one of the things that I've used, and it's funny, going back, like I said, trying to stay on topic here, Patty O'Brien creates the believers, right? And it has the magnets on them and stuff. So this is what opened me up to the whole understanding of magnetism and the effects that it has on emotional energy. When I'm looking at these astral fragments, they've been polarized a certain way, right? So they're like stuck to the energy body. So for me, I just thought, hey, well, I'm just going to ask her, invert the polarity of this real quick. Invert the polarity of the electrons in this astral fragments, right, to help unstick it. So that would be, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a whole thing on there that talks about all these step by step. But that's really the process of using the infrared pendulum, is we can neutralize and we can balance the digestive and reproductive system really, really well with it. Anybody that's got like Crohn's disease or any of that kind of stuff, messing IBS and that kind of stuff, problems with the kidneys, this can all work with that infrared spectrum.
Well, fun fact, Nick, I don't know if you know this, but I, in fact, had an abortion like around 22 or 23. Shanell, and I had a huge drug addiction and alcohol problem, which is sacral chakra and all that jazz. And when Shanell had done my first Reiki session ever, she saw that abortion and she cleared all that out. And literally I've been sober since. And I talk about that so much because I tell people, like, not to discount the AA or NA programs. And, I think the 12, some of the things are great, but, we all comes down to like energy and healing that. And that's like, once that got cleared and once those fragments were like removed and she like got in there and cleared all that, I mean, really the shift. Like, if you guys have been listening to what he just said, and as somebody who experienced it myself, it's profound. The healing that happens when you go in there and you remove those energetic, you don't think it's affecting you, right? You don't and it's just, we don't see the energy when we're so 3D and we're thinking on that level. And it's like, when you can clear that stuff up, oh my God.
Well, and a lot of times too, it's that connecting that energy with that trauma, because the illness comes from the trauma. Like people like stress and trauma are like a silent killer. So when you take the frequencies that can come from these pendulums that Nick has and work on the energy itself specifically, everything else just, it like lifts and shifts. And sometimes people just they may not even know it's there, but then it's when we find it in their session that they go, oh my God, I had no idea. And I get people all the time that are like, I think I healed something, but I don't remember what it was. Do I have to remember to heal it? And I'm like, if you literally felt that emotion shift, you're good. You don't always have to remember everything, but just feeling and being aware of the energy and knowing that it's the toxic energy and that gooey, sticky trauma is leaving. Yeah, you're good. And that's where, like, using the white light pendulum or blue light and bringing those frequencies in, like everything Nick is saying, I'm like, oh my God, that totally, I do that. It's awesome.
Yeah, like the prayer pendulum, that infrared frequency, because that's the thing too, like alcoholism and addiction, that is illness. You know what I mean? So that's those are valid chakras. Like, I might not have had like an out, you know what I mean? I didn't have like fibromyalgia or Crohn's, but that addiction sure as hell is an illness. So yeah. But I'm sorry, go on. But I just wanted to say, because that whole thymus and all that.
Yeah, the thymus chakra is amazing. That's what I do with my ancestral healing. Sometimes I'll go to the thymus chakra of like a great grandmother because the trauma started with them. And I'll go back to when the grandmother was a child and was abused, or the great grandmother was a child and was abused. And then I bring it forward to the now, to my client who now they could be in their 40s or 50s, but they were abused, and they might have fibromyalgia or Hashimoto's, or maybe they have endometriosis because they were sexually assaulted, and it comes down that ancestral line. So sometimes when you take like my point is his pendulums are so strong, you can use them and go as far back as the energy will allow you, and I've done great ancestor whatever, and then I bring it forward and heal it, and you can feel it ripple to the front, to the now. It's amazing.
Yeah, Nick, I'm excited about these. That's why I was like, I'm trying to start taking notes. I was like, wait.
For the people listening, if they're like, how am I going to know which timeline to go to? Like, I need you to understand that it's not as difficult as it sounds. You don't need to know.
Yeah.
All you need to just have is a clear intention. Just say, hey, can you please send me to the moment that this started, the moment that this infraction started? Can you just send me to this moment? And it'll send you to it. You don't need to know what country it was in, what lifetime you were, what was your occupation, what was your race. Like, you don't need to know any of that stuff. I understand you're curious, but just understand that we only have, like, for me, I have a certain amount of energy. And if I waste it in 15 minutes trying to get descriptions on things that aren't going to help me clear it up, it's easy for me to like kind of lose focus, right? So for me, I like to get in and find what I'm working with and just be about the business, get in and then get out. And what I find is later, if I want to clear up a situation and I want to know more, clear up the situation first and then go back later and ask questions about it. And I've seemed to have a lot better results that way.
Yep. I agree.
Sometimes I'll ask too many questions and I'll forget to do the healing itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I've done that. And then at the end, I'm like, this is how it goes. I'll be at the end of the session and I'll go, oh shit. Hey, do you have a few minutes? I have something else I want to do. And I like say to the client, I just want to touch up on, and I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot to go back to that chakra or whatever. I have to go back. I've done it. I'm guilty.
Yes. That's
amazing. So Nick, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I've always wanted to know what because we've worked together so much, and I just value our friendship like you can't imagine. And I remember when we first started working together, we were in that Facebook group doing paranormal stuff. What like brought
curses and hexes and exorcisms or whatever it was?
Yep. What brought you to the pendulum? Like, do you remember like the first pendulum that you used and how it felt? And then, because I can tell you just took what Patty does, and then you've done so much with so many different concepts. Like you've truly, I feel like you have your own modalities through your pendulums. And I every time I use them, I feel like it's a privilege because you can feel the frequency, and the pendulums, they've done things that I literally in my session go, holy shit, because I can feel it, I can see it, and the pendulum will stop and it'll vibrate and then it'll spin the other way. And I'm just like, I'm like doing my thing in realms. So I would love to know, like, where did this start? Like, did you have like an experience with the client, or what did it come from?
I'll try and make it as cliff notes as possible without getting too far. So, when I started getting into meditation, when I started to take that dive into what's behind door number 2, let's just say the whole being around a paranormal has been a staple in my life as long as I can remember. So I've learned that not everybody experienced it, so I can't talk with everybody about it unless you enjoy always talking about something that no one else does. At a very young age, I stopped doing that. So there was always a presence I could pick up on, and from one house to another, I'd live in one house to another and always end up being haunted. I'd show up and be clear within a week or two, everything would kind of start up again. So it took me till I was about 25 or 26 to realize that it's not the houses that are haunted, that maybe there's something else going on here. So if anybody else is feeling this way, listen up. So I remember hearing the sound like a little pop or a tap, and it would be very distinct. It wouldn't be too loud, but it'd be very distinct. And so I started noticing at night when I would sleep, because I'm always an early bird, right? If you're sitting here trying to find time to meditate and you say, man, I just don't have no time to meditate. If I had time, that would be great. And then all of a sudden you start getting woke up at 3 a.m. consistently for like the next 6 months. It would appear that the universe is helping you make time to meditate. So
totally.
some mornings I would get up.
Yeah. That witching hour. You got to love it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yep.
Right.
So I get up, I'd light my candle, do my little candle gaze, get myself in my space, and I'd start meditating. Some mornings I wake up in the middle of the night, and I don't want to get up and go meditate. I just want to lay there in bed. I don't want to get up, right? And so I do what most people would do is I grab my phone and I'd start scrolling the internet, right? Just sitting there in my bed, middle of the night on my phone. And all of a sudden from the other side of my house, I'd hear start popping down the hallway. All of a sudden, right on the wall, right next to my bed with me, right? So anytime I was awake, this thing was here. And once I started acknowledging its presence, I snapped back at it, right? I started acknowledging its presence. This thing would go with me everywhere. I'd walk down the sidewalk and I'd hear it hitting cars. I'd walk by buildings and I'd hear it popping off concrete walls. And so I try and ask my teacher at the time, who was my meditation teacher. I was like, hey man, I'm hearing some stuff like this. You know anything about that? And he's like, no. And if you tell anybody about it, they're probably going to think you're crazy. So I said, okay, I don't know what the heck this tap is, or I don't know what it is, but it's definitely apparent because the nights that I'd wake up and I wouldn't mess with my phone, it wouldn't come into my room. If I acted like I was asleep, even though I was awake, I'd act like I was asleep. It wouldn't come in my room. But as soon as I grabbed my phone and showed that I was awake, 30 seconds, tick, 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 pop, inside my room, it'd be there. So I'm like, okay, so something that's intelligent, that's interacting with me. I was going through the stage of, and I'm getting to how I got to the pendulum. I'm going through the stage of going back book after book after book. I'm reading, trying to figure out what happens after death and before birth. I want to know more about that information specifically. So we're having dinner at this Italian restaurant, and there's a bookstore that's like right next to it, right? And I hadn't found a book in there or anything. I said, hey, let's go over there and see if we can find a book after dinner. So I'm walking up and down the aisles, and I'm not seeing anything. Nothing is catching my eye. And just as soon as I'm about to leave, pop! It was so loud. It was sounding like someone took a marble and hit the bookcase with it. It was loud. I look over and I see this one gray book that has a bunch of dark books surrounding it. And I pull it out and it says, People That Don't Know They're Dead by Gary Leon Hill. And I flip it up to the first couple pages. And this guy, Gary, is from Eugene, Oregon. And his accomplice, his associate who he's working with in the book, is from Nebraska. I cracked up, I closed the book, and I walked up and I bought it. Didn't read another word because I'm from Oregon, and my first teacher is from Nebraska.
Oh, I love it.
So I said, okay, I'm going to take this home and read it. And in that book, I felt like I was let in on a secret because this book gave me my first introduction on how to essentially identify what is around me and cross over spirits utilizing a pendulum.
What's it called?
So I was hooked. People that don't know that they're dead by Gary Leon Hill.
Gary Leon Hill. People that don't know they're dead. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I got into first, right? So I go on Etsy and I find a local lady that makes these little, like, you know, the little crystal pendulums you see in like all your metaphysical stores and stuff, just a little like teardrop looking ones, right? So I've never really been into pink. Pink is not something you're going to find in my wardrobe at all. I'm just not that way. No problem with anybody else's, but I'm not that way. I ended up buying a rose quartz pendulum. And I said, okay, this one looks cool, rose quartz. I like this one. So I bought it. And I got it and I was told, hey, you know, program your pendulum, keep it with you. I didn't know much about a pendulum yet. All I knew is I was going to carry it with me for the next few days and let it get used to my energy before I started asking questions with it. So I kept it in my pocket and I started putting it under my pillow. And within a week, I had this dream that I'll never forget because it definitely wasn't a dream. All of a sudden I was it looked like the setting of like someone's backyard barbecue, right? Everything was set up. It looked like a party was going to be there, but there was nobody back there. The grass was green, sunny, beautiful day. You could feel the breeze. It was a wonderful place to be. All of a sudden I'm in the presence of this very radiant blonde woman. And I'm walking with her and she's telling me about how her name's Archangel Ariel and she's here to help me perfect my fate. And I'm like, Ariel, now mind you, this time I didn't know nothing about angels. I don't know nothing about demons. I don't know anything about anything, right? And all I know is like I'm in the presence of this woman where it's kind of like don't get me wrong, like she's beautiful, but it was like walking into your principal's office and you're in trouble and she happens to be really pretty. You know, it was like like that was a presence. Like I'm like, oh crap, you know, I have to be respectful. You know what I mean?
Nick, I never got in trouble, so I don't know what you mean. No.
neither did I. I know my friends told me about it once. It sounded rough. So anyway, she tells me that she's here to help me perfect my fate and all this stuff, right? And then I wake up and I hit Google and all this information comes up about her, right? So that sound that I was listening to was guidance. But it's also more than that. It's more than that. Now, for me, when I come across spirits, if I'm in someone's house, right, before I learned how to see them here, I would learn to hear them. And so it comes off as taps or pops, or the house is always settling. But why is the house always settling when you're the only one awake, or you're the only one that's there? And so I started noticing that these pops would happen in different places, and they would have a different tone or a pitch to them. But there was a consistency. This sound came from this wall, it sounded like this, or it sounded like this. Down here over on this side of the house, this sound sounded like this. So they were different, very similar, but they were all different tones. And so I started noticing the difference between when Ariel would come by, which I know her now as the Holy Mother. Our relationship is very much developed, and she is something that has had many names all around the world. You would probably call her, in ancient Egypt, you'd call her Sekhmet. If you went to China, you'd probably call her Kuan Yin. If you went to Tibet, you'd probably call her Tara. If you went to, in Hawaii, I'm pretty sure she's called Hui, the Holy Mother. If you were in the Catholic religion, you'd probably call her Mary. But what she is she's this creative, feminine energy, which, I mean, realistically, she's probably both, right? She's not one or the other, but very much a feminine, strong energy, something very, very close to the creator or source or God, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So this has been a blossoming relationship since then. But when things come around, they make different sounds. But what I find is humans are the ones that make the most noise. When I'm dealing with the jinn, it's a very different feeling. They don't make the pops on the walls. They can move stuff and they can throw stuff, but they don't make the pops on the walls. When they come around, I usually get, sometimes it's almost like an elevated heart rate, almost like a panicky feeling. Sometimes it gives me like a little bit of a shaky feeling in my thighs. But one of the other things I feel a lot is a slight sharp pain that usually is attached to my temple, somewhere around my forehead. I feel it, maybe even the top of the head, but usually right around the temple. And it's subtle, but it's enough that I've developed over time how to sense when things are around. When I'm hearing the pops in my house, if it's in a consistent location, I know it's probably like a friend or family member. And then I use the pendulum to discern who's there, and then it's all good. And then they start using that sound every time I come by to let me know that they're there. And I just say, oh, hey, what's up? That kind of stuff. But when I bring home something foreign and I bring home something on accident, this was in the beginning, I started noticing very erratic sounds, pop, 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 just jumping all over the place. Those are the kinds of things that usually aren't friends or family members, and something that definitely needs some help. So I know there's a lot of people out here that are already thinking, man, I don't know if I want to open that door, right? But I can tell you, if they're already here, that door is already wide open.
Right.
Now we just have to learn how to utilize it and how to be able to navigate it. And so these pendulums, I think, I've done a lot of clearings with crystals. I've done a lot of clearings with brass ones and metal ones too. But when I use my breathing technique, I feel it really resonates with the wood really well, because we both kind of come from the earth. They grow from the earth. I think they have a very natural grounding ability to them. Are they the only ones? No. But with my method, I found that they really work a lot. So I've been kind of sticking to them for right now. But that's kind of what got me into pendulums, was learning how to identify spirit around me. And that was my crash course of getting into it. I remember my heart racing before I did my first clearing, because all of a sudden that pendulum is spinning the correct way and I'm getting responses. And I'm like, oh, man, it's really going down. Right. But just know that when you start doing that, you got a lot of things paying attention. And you start doing that, you start becoming of service, you're going to get a lot of practice, especially if that's your intention. My intention was to dive headfirst into this and try and understand it as much as possible, because it was something I very much was interested in. That's not everybody's path, but it totally has been mine, and it's been turned into like a passion and obsession ever since then. So that's how I got started into it. And that was about, 9 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So out of curiosity, for my house clearings, what would you suggest would be the best ones for me to use? Like the infrared frequency for the clearing, and then bringing in that prayer pendulum, the white light one?
For your house?
No, when I do house clearings, because I go and like sage houses and
use your blue energy pendulums, your blue energy and your blue-green energy pendulums.
I'm gonna get that, because I've been writing them down. So you got the Incubus and the Nova are your blue frequency ones.
The Auk is also one that is a blue frequency that I don't have on here, but that's one I've had for a while, is the Auk. But
Okay.
the Anubis and the Moor, they have a natural ability to be able to clear multiple non-human entities, which most of the clearings I deal with now are all non-human entities. Sometimes I deal with people, but it's more likely that I'm dealing with jinn and that kind of stuff now. And for some reason, these really just have, that's the one I'm always asking. Should I use this pendulum? Nope. Should I use this one? Yep. So it keeps guiding me right back to that. So I don't really know everything. I just know this is what I'm finding, and I kind of present it and say, hey, give it a try because this is what's working for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I usually just like the house clearing that I did this morning, there was like this little old man, previous owner, and I was like, he left easily. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he wasn't really bothering anybody. And then his cat was in the basement. But I definitely want to like, I love all these tools and this magic. So that's why I was like, oh, gotta get some new stuff. So anybody getting house clearings? Mama's got some new toys coming. So I'm excited.
I'd like to put a little perspective out there for some people. If you're conscious enough to want to go down this route and be able to say, hey, you know what, I can do something with this. Not know if conscious is the right word. If you're willing to do this, okay, we have the ability to clear our family lineage. We have the ability to heal our family lineage. Sometimes it's through trauma, but I think we also can help clear any earthbound family members that are still present with us. And some people are say, oh, no, but I don't want grandma to leave and da-da-da-da. But grandma, died maybe, with Alzheimer's or maybe was medicated and this and that. So if we can send her a little bit of healing energy and help her be in a better position, it's going to help her. And so when we do that, we can help transition them and get them to go where they need to be, right? But I don't want grandma to go. Well, grandma exists outside of time and space. And so what that means is we can go send her off to the light, right? Have her find the light within herself and go there. And she can go do her thing for 1,000 years. Go study, travel, go do whatever she wants. But she can come right back to this present moment, just like opening up a chapter or a page in a book. And so from our perspective, it's like they never left. But they really have. But when they come back, they are a being of light, and they're very strong, and they have the capability of being a great protector for your family. So rather than contributing to the sickness that can be handed down through spiritual interference, they can now become at a level of service, help you on your path. And more times than not, they're going to find other family members that were like them or that you're related to, and they're going to bring them to you. That's one of the big things. That's one of the big things that happens.
What pendulum do you have that works for that? I told you I have some ancestral clearing I need to do, and I need some big boys. I have a lot of on my Korean side that are very angry for not being acknowledged for what they have done, and they're latching onto my uncle right now, and his cancer, the tumor's getting bigger. I'm like, Shanell, help me. I did exactly what she told me to do, to like go into the Jade Garden with my ancestors, and some of them are just like,
Use your blue light pendulum. Blue light pendulum will work well on him. Now, if you're asking to if you're spinning to say, hey, I want to clear all of my ancestral trauma stored within my soul's memory, that Ferber one would be a really good one to use.
No, I need to clear them because they're not latching onto me. My vibe is high. You know what I mean? They know I'm not the one. So that's why they're latching onto him right now, because he also hasn't been acknowledged in this life for what he's done. And that's
so what I'm listening to, you have to understand what this is it's kind of a complicated topic, but I'll try and keep it really simple. If he's in your life right now and you're having issues with this, I'm asking, what's the connecting link between you? What is the connecting emotion, connecting thought, connecting belief that's arising between you? And I think it has something to do with despair, the ability to not be able to do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it feels like. So what I would do is I would first go within myself. And you could use that blue light pendulum. You can use your Ferber, works well too. Work on clearing that and then start working on them, because what happens is entities come into our life. Entities come into our life reflecting something inside of us. So I can get to tell you about, why do you think I'm dealing with so many jinn? What is inside of me? I can tell you all about that.
That's so funny. Somebody just did a meme. I am what I attract. I attract all crazy people. Well played, universe. Well played.
People ask me, what's your sign? I tell them I'm Sagittarius. They're like, oh, you're a fire sign. I go, I'm all fire. And it's funny because jinn are what?
Right.
beings of smokeless fire. So
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, so maybe there's a little bit of truth to that, right? So
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and what you're saying is so true too, because that's what I did with my dad's mom. When my dad was close to passing, I went and I healed his mom first and then healed my dad. Because my dad, remember, and you were the one that taught me about the skin cancer because of her being attached to him, was because she passed from trauma. She didn't have cancer, but her being attached to him was causing his skin cancer. And that was when it was like 2 years before he passed. And I started working on her and healed her and sent her to the light so that she could come back, so that when he did pass, she was there in full light and he would see her and then not walk into that trauma that was still out there from when she passed. Because when she passed, it like rocked my dad's childhood. It was like a grenade. And then it also devastated her as well because she was pregnant. So when she passed, she was pregnant. So there were all these things. So I remember doing that, and that it was amazing because I worked with her first. And so then when my dad passed, it was like everything was clean and ready. You know what I mean? So
yep,
it's amazing how you can go to the source and hit it's like you go to the roots first and then you go back to where things grew, so it's awesome. I
So
love it.
I feel like talking about something, because there's someone here in the audience that needs to hear this right now. Um, Forgiveness is a huge thing. When we have people in our life that maybe we have a dad that was like an alcoholic and abusive, whether it was physically, sexually, mentally, all that stuff, or maybe in just old school, right? Just worked his ass off all the time, and what he wanted to do in life wasn't important. The only thing that mattered was responsibility and obligation. Those kind of things can like harden people, and family relationships between parents and kids can be deteriorated. So long story short, what I'm trying to say is we're always going to have that one family member that's going to come forward. You learn to cross over your grandma, she's going to grab him and bring him to you. He's going to grab her and bring him to you. That person that's all about abandonment, that person that's all about abuse, they are looking for forgiveness. And people are saying, he molested my kids. There's no way I can forgive him right now. Just hear me out. Hear me out. When this happens, we have the ability to forgive. Maybe not so much for the fact that they deserve it, but because we need to release ourselves from the same prison that they're being held in right now.
Exactly. It
And
detaches
they
us.
will, and they will come down generation to generation to generation to generation until somebody deals with them and somebody knows who's. And so what happens, we take this person that didn't live a good life with their family for whatever reason. We take this person, we heal them. We get them to find their own inner light, get absorbed back into source, get absorbed back to their own divinity. They will come back as a being of light, and they will not only be a strong protector for that family, but what they actually do is they'll start grabbing other things just like them, other people just like them, and they'll start bringing them to you as well, because now they are going to operate at a level of service. And this level of service helps them understand their life's issues full circle. So people can say karmic debt, but I don't think it's a punishment. I think it's an opportunity to see things full circle. And so when they have the opportunity to be acknowledged, oh, hey, Uncle Tim, I'm glad you're here. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, man, they love it because everyone ignores them. But now they get a chance to be an actual protector of your family. If you don't want them around, they seem to be really respectful. But what I'm saying, if we have the power to completely change that, or we can say, no, for my reasons, I'm not going to help them. And then they can get attached to our children. They can get attached to other people. And now all of a sudden your son has a really bad anger problem. And he seems to be really cold with people and stuff. And it's just, that Bruce Lee movie, Enter the Dragon. I don't know if you guys ever seen that.
Let them
and that
know,
movie,
Nick. Louder for the
hey,
people in the back,
hey,
please.
hey, Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon. Dad's trying to fight the demon. Dad loses to the demon. Who does the demon go for? Goes for Bruce Lee. And then what happens? Bruce Lee sees him going for his son, and then starts fighting and get back at him, right? So what I'm saying is we don't need to fight them, but it will be handed down to us. If we don't take care of it, it'll get handed down to the people past us. And that doesn't go away.
I just made a TikTok because I'm dealing with this ancestral stuff. And my very last sentence was like, heal yourself so you're not that ancestor.
Yeah.
Don't be that ancestor.
Exactly.
Okay. Do the work, because if you don't, you're going to be that ancestor. All right.
Do you want to be that ancestor, or do you want to be the one that all your ancestors prayed for at this moment?
Yeah.
And that
isn't that kind of similar to that fellow Jesus that came down and died for all of man's sins to go ascend back to the Father? Doesn't that sound kind of similar?
I'm just like freezing inside right now because all all of the peoples just showed up right now into my room. I get so cold when they all show up. I'm like, hello. Yes.
Well, I keep seeing Grandma, the one with the
Kim, you're so
I think
funny.
sits down with you and has your tea or something with you. But I see her; she seems really sweet. She has a little soft little laugh to her, but she keeps coming up, putting her nose up. So I would just say maybe later grab your pendulum and see if you can send her a little love. If not, you can come over here and I'll help you. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick, I might be calling you because I was like, oh, yeah. But that's thank you for saying that, because you're guys, he's right. So definitely somebody needed to hear that, because that was one of the key things for me about like forgiving. You know, like I had family members I had so many resentments against, and it wasn't hurting them. You know what I mean? I was the one, I was starting to get physically ill. My knee started hurting, my wrist started hurting. All this stuff started happening to me physically, all because of this anger I was holding against this family member. And that's why it's like, forgiveness is so key.
Well, the other thing too with forgiveness that people don't realize is they have the ego mindset that you have to forgive, which they feel like they're losing something or they're surrendering their power by forgiving. It's like, no, when you're forgiving in a spiritual mindset, it's done with love and compassion. You don't feel like you're losing or having to swallow your pride. You're just releasing what is no longer necessary in your space. And when you do that, through forgiveness, it then creates a vibration of healing, and it opens that up, like Nick said, how it's like necessary, because then you open that up, and then like you said, you're not that ancestor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not about like the ego side of things. With forgiveness, like the true deep rooted spiritual energy of divine forgiveness, that comes from a totally different mindset, and you can just let it go. Like I have family members that are still living, and the reason we don't talk is because they haven't accepted my forgiveness, because they still want to hate and fight. So, they're not blocked.
It's easier to be that way.
Yeah, they're angry. They're not blocked. I didn't cut them out or anything like that. I just said, I love you where you're at, and when you're ready for it to be peaceful, I'll leave my light on for you. That's like my saying. I'll leave my light on. You can come to and I don't hear from them, and I'm okay with that, because I know it's consciously it's their choice. But I have forgiven them. So whatever happens spiritually with that, my space is cleared, and I vibrated that out to them, and they can accept it when they're ready to receive it. Now, when let's say if they passed, they're already in spirit, then it would vibe out and it would heal. So it's a beautiful concept when you take it to a different perspective and you leave your ego like at the door, you know?
Yeah. Cause I'm not like in forgiving doesn't mean you're having family reunions with these people. That's not what that means either. We're not all kumbaya. You know what I mean? That's not, people think, oh, forgiving means that means letting go of what they did. And, no, boundaries are still important. You know what I mean? That's not what that means either. But
yeah, it's just a beautiful process altogether,
But going back real quick, because I want to know, because I know you have tons. We went to blue light, green light, white light. Then you went to your infrared frequency. What other lights do you have for us?
So we talk about a violet, the purple spectrum. I find for people, so like the Hekau pendulum is the infrared frequency.
How do you spell that, by the way?
Hekau.
Hekau. I was so
close. And it comes from the word Heka, which is the Egyptian word for magic.
Got it.
So Hekau pendulum, that and the Sekhmet, which is named after the Egyptian goddess Sekhmet.
I know how to spell that.
Both of these are what I would consider therapeutic pendulums for yourself. You can use them on other people, but people that are starting on their journey, these are the ones that I recommend. So the violet light, what I find it has a natural disposition to. If I use my blue frequency pendulum, I can use that to patch up holes in the aura. Anytime there's any kind of like psychic hooks or tubes or that kind of stuff, I can dissolve them really easy with that. It works really well in the energy bodies. So when I use violet light, I am working on neutralizing the emotions and trauma that are stored in the subconscious and unconscious parts of the mind. So people that have PTSD, people that have bipolar, schizophrenia, that kind of stuff, which of course schizophrenia is a little bit more of an advanced case of it. But what we're looking to do is help release this. And so there's a breathing technique that I use called the Ha, that I use to incorporate this. You can look at my YouTube videos on how to do the Ha breath, or look at my emotional clearing with a pendulum. video, and I use segment in that one too. And so when we do that, I'm using that to work on the subconscious of people. And so lingering in that subconscious, you can totally have attachments. And the attachments that you're going to find usually in this area are two different things. One are going to be the jinn, because the jinn are the things that connect with us on a mental level. They can be in our unconscious and subconscious mind to trauma. They can attach to that. And the way you'll know they're tricky is you won't ever find them around the house, but every time you go to sleep, they're always there. So that's the biggest thing. So for me, doing my spiritual clearings, I would say at least once a week, I go through my own subconscious and unconscious minds, because there's some techniques that I have that I might tell a little bit of you with it, but I don't want to set anybody up to drive a Ferrari that's never driven fast before. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is that I can bring them to me. Everybody that's listening right now to this video, whether or not you're here or you listen to it 3 months from now, I can draw that one from your house right now too, with a simple intention. And so when I do this stuff, normally I can bring everything to my house. They are super fast. They move faster than the speed of light. I can promise you that. They move the fastest of thought. They can travel great distances. And once they're there and you got their attention, they usually stay until I get to do something with them. Now, this is me. I've been doing this for a while. So for me, I'm very confident that I can handle multiple ones coming into my house, and that I have a certain level of respect with them, and they see my intentions. My intentions aren't to hurt them. My intentions aren't to do anything like that. My intentions, in fact, are to help them and heal them. And so because of that, they have a very different disposition with me. And I think there's a word in Arabic for, I guess, what kind of person you would describe me as, and it's called waji or wajai, which means essentially like friend.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I thought you were going to say that meant crazy.
No, it means friend. But like I said, if you listen to the Quran, they don't talk about making friends with these things or even helping them or anything like that. Right. So.
And that's why it's so crazy to me that they appear in the Quran. I'm like, wow. So there's a religious, guys. And that's why I said, if you listen to episode 6, where Nick talks about the jinn, which are like dark shadow figures, the Quran talks about them. And I just found this out like the last, I think yesterday or today, I was listening to a book. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to mention that
you're good. And so for me, learning about the different kinds of jinn, I'm assuming we're just going to start probably talking about the jinn a little bit now. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. So there's totally different kinds that are out there. There's many different kinds, and they have many different ways that they can shape themselves. But the only thing I can tell you is that they, from their angle, they can see and hear everything we're talking about, but we can't always see them. They can choose to phase in and out of our vision because they are very different. They do not have a physical body. But there's a lot of people that don't know that they're dealing with jinns, and this is where my opinions get to be controversial, because I'll tell you that elemental spirits people are very familiar with. Elementals are jinn.
You posted a photo on your, was it your Facebook page? You just posted
Have you ever heard of fairies and sprites?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're a type of jinn. You ever heard of gnomes? They're a type of jinn. Sliffs, they're a type of jinn. Undines in the water, they are a type of jinn. And so they're all very different stuff, and not all of them are mean. A lot of them are actually super smart and helpful to people. But for me, I don't personally ask them for favors, because from their position, I know there's a lot of deception. And depending on, like I said, the ones that I deal with, some of them like low level ones, and like they have a hierarchy. Some of them are a lot more capable of doing things, right? And some are more geared towards messing with the mind. Some are just more geared towards just trying to get back home, so they are a little bit different. But my understanding of them, sometimes they come off as shadows. Absolutely. Sometimes they come off as something really, really tall or floating, or even like a mass, almost like a big cloud. Sometimes you can see eyes in these things, but more times than not, these things will also take on the shape of animals. More times than not, dogs, snakes, and sometimes like bears or anything like that, where you'll see them in your dream and you'll notice the eyes. The eyes usually have a color to them, whether it's red, green, or yellow. That seems to be pretty common. You'll know it for me when they started coming around, they came off as dogs. And so when I hear people that like had a dog that passed away or a cat that passed away, and now all of a sudden they're seeing the shadow animal, they think it's Mittens, they think it's Fido. It is not Mittens or Fido. It is something completely different. And if they have kids in the house, 9 times out of 10, I bet you they've seen something very tall and scary in their room before. So they are shapeshifters. So if you were to look at some of the Gaelic and Celtic understandings of these things, they would call them wraiths. Wraiths are something that are a shapeshifter. They are the things that hang out by graveyards. And these are the types of things that Shanell, when I asked you, remember I'd show you these photos back in the day and I said, what does this one look like? And you're like, this one looks like a Dementor, from like Harry Potter that has like wetness and stuff.
Totally, yeah.
That is a wraith.
Okay.
That is a wraith, 100%. So when I was asking you, what do these things look like? It helped me form a description of what's going on. Okay, so when you're dealing with something, now that's in the Gaelic and Celtic culture, right? Now, if we get down into more like the Arabic culture, when they talk about jinn, beings of smokeless fire that inhabit the desert and other like dwellings and stuff, right? Where there's no people, caves and that kind of stuff. These things, I've seen them a few different ways. But the number one way I see these a lot is a mass. They are a mass. They are a black mass that can shapeshift, and it looks like a sheet that flips in the wind. You'll know them very differently by their movement. If you ever see like a deceased person that doesn't really know that they're dead, they kind of move like a blob, right? They kind of just like move and shit. Where these things like have like a whipping motion to them. If you ever find me on my Instagram or go on TikTok, Pendulum Metrics, I got a real good video on there that's actually getting a ton of hits lately of actual jinn that's actually on there. So that's one that actually looks like. Now, if we were to go a little bit farther into the east, going into India, there's something that's called a Rakasha that's there that they call it is a shapeshifter entity. But these are also known as the white jinn. They are something that would come off of having a lighter appearance to them. And I've seen them kind of phase in and out of reality. It's almost like something that's like you can see and then it kind of fades out. You can see and then it kind of fades out. A lot of them appear this way. Some appear to have those rags on them and stuff too. But a lot of these have a lighter color to them. These things can also look like people in houses. Have you ever heard the doppelganger phenomenon where this person's sleeping on the couch, but yet they're also over there in the kitchen? You know what I'm talking about? This is the presence of one. This is the presence of one of these jinn. They have the ability to mimic people, and they have the ability to mimic the sounds of people. Now, not all of them are this way, but some of them are. Okay, and all of a sudden you're like, dude, I swear to God, I just saw my husband walk inside here, or I heard him get up and leave and go to work in the morning, but really he wasn't even there in the first place, or he's still back in the bedroom. Who was that? What was that? It's a jinn. These things do this all the time. They have the ability to change shapes. So if you could think of any kind of shape-shifting entity, any kind of thing that's like that, this is very strongly associated with the jinn. And I'm trying to think, what other ones am I missing?
I have a question for you then about that. Because remember Shanell, I messaged her about this. So, okay. So you're saying about, okay, so I met a guy in 2016 and he said that he worked at this console center where the Pittsburgh Penguins play, right? 2016. Fast forward to 2023, this guy's like, no, he's a lawyer. I wanted to call him for a job thing. Anyway, I don't know if this is the right question, but they're saying no, he was a lawyer. He was never worked at the console center. My husband and I both remember having a conversation with this guy saying that he worked at facilities, big wig at the console center. And this guy was like, no, he worked for Mitsubishi back in 2016 as a lawyer. Explain that. What do you think that kind of phenomena? Like,
so you met this guy?
We met this guy, had a conversation about him working where the Pittsburgh Penguins work at, because my husband does facilities. We didn't think anything about it, kept that in our back pocket. 2023, because Shanell, I just messaged her about this. I was like, what the fuck? I go, explain this to me. Because this guy, we were like, hey, what's up? Are you guys hiring? And he's like, I'm a lawyer. Like my friend's friend, I didn't even talk to him. My friend was like, no, he's a lawyer. And in 2016, he was a lawyer for Mitsubishi. And he's not the person that would lie and like make, and we were all there having a conversation. And my friend was like, I don't even remember your husband being there. And we both
Did this guy have black hair?
It was darker hair, but it was probably like salt and pepper when we met him. But
was he wearing like a red flannel or something like that?
I can't remember. It was so long ago. He was like a lawyer, like buttoned down. Because I do remember he looked like a white collar, like a business guy. And they lived in this really nice house. And it was so funny because even my husband at the time was like, even if he's runs facilities at the console center, what kind of money is he making? Because their house was really nice. So that's why in 2023, when my friend was like, no, he's a lawyer, even my husband was like, well, that makes more sense for the kind of house they lived in. So it fucking blew my mind. I'm like, then what the fuck? Because that's happened to me before, but not with somebody else that can validate that. Yeah, he said that. He said,
Yeah, I'd have to look into this another time more once I grasp kind of the concept of how this all came to be. Like I said, I'm pulling at stuff right now, but I
Yeah.
think I'd have to get back to you on this and we can talk about it.
That's why I was like, is that a glitch in the fucking matrix? Like, what the fuck? It was like,
I've had
Well,
something
hey,
similar
you
that
want to,
happen. I feel you on that for sure. I had very similar
maybe.
experience.
yeah, because like I said, it's happened to me before, but I thought, but this is the first time like somebody validated. No, he definitely said he worked where the penguins worked. And then my friend was like, no, he's a lawyer. He's never done facilities. Like, no idea. And like I said, and I go, and I even asked him 3 times, I'm not trying to insult you, but you swear your brother-in-law wouldn't lie about that, right? Like he wouldn't make, he's like, why the fuck would he make that up? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I'm like, but that's so weird. But that's
Yeah,
so
you're
weird.
so funny.
Yeah, and I messaged him again like 4 days later. I was like, I'm not trying to insult you, but you swear you wouldn't lie about that, right? You swear you wouldn't lie about that and just make that up. He's like, no. So yeah. Okay, sorry. Cause that's what you were. I was like, could that have been like, cause like, if they're, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've had similar experiences though with my mom's friend back when I was 19. Like I met her on the beach and she was from Peru. And I met her on the beach. She was wearing a visor and she was very, very wealthy. So she had like the gold jewelry and the like real like high end, like nice bathing suit. And I had a conversation with her. We talked about college. We talked about loans. And it was like a year or so later. Sorry, my thing went up. It was like a year later. My mom and I were talking about college and I can't remember what her name was. I can't remember, but anyway, I said so and so when I was talking to her on the beach. She's like she'd never been to that beach, and I was like, I talked to her, like we hung out for the day, and my mom's like, you've never met her? I'm like, yes, I have. I've met her, and all of her aunts were like convinced that I had not met her. So my aunt pulled up a photo. This is before phones, so she gets a photo. And she's like, which one is she? And it was a photo of a bunch of women. I said, it's her right there in the middle. Like, that's her in the hat. And she was like, oh my God. But this woman remembered meeting me. She remembered our conversation, but she was never at the beach. So it was like, what the hell is that? Because you were at the beach, like you had like a $900 bottle of suntan oil that I was like, who does that? I remembered everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And she's like, well, we had a conversation because I remember telling you to not, she was someone that came to America with like $3 and made herself a millionaire. She's just a brilliant woman. And she had all this wisdom to help me get money to go to school because I wanted to go to college. And I made mental note of all that, which is why I was able to go to Michigan State. But she remembered talking to me, but she was like, but no, I've never been to that beach, because the beach was Puerto Penasco, Mexico. And she's like, I wasn't there that year because they had something going on with her husband's business. So she was like, no, we never did travel. We were not there at that time. And I was like, we talked. She's like, yes, we did, but I wasn't at the beach. And I was like, I quit. I give up on life. I don't know what just happened. But I know I met you.
Yeah, you totally remind me of some of the stuff I experienced. And I don't know how else to explain it to people when I'm like talking to them for the first time. And I'm like, look, I don't know how to tell you this, but we've already had this conversation. I have dreams.
Oh,
I have
Nick,
dreams where I talk to people and we have a conveation about things, in a very in-depth conversation. And then I wake up and I don't even want to talk about it anymore because we've already talked about it for like an hour. You know what I mean? But so sometimes over time I start kind of graying where I'm like, what, did I dream about that or did that actually happen? And then people tell me this, you never said that to me. I'm like, huh.
I've done that to my clients. I've messaged them and been like, did I message you already about your mom coming through? And they're like, what? And they'll be like, well, when was it? And I'll be like, no, your mom came through, not in your session. And they'll be like, well, we haven't had our session yet. And I'll be like, oh, and in my head, I had their session and their mom came through and I already have everything done. And I'm like, well, you want to do your session right now? Because mom's here, and I do the same thing. And I dream it all and process it. And I wake up and I'm like, nah, I'm done. We don't need to talk about it.
And we can just label that psychic happenings.
Yeah.
If you choose to work with it, that's what happens.
I see that's my alternate universe ego. Like every time I'm like triggered or having a bad day, I'm always like, hey, alternate universe girl, I hope you're having a better day on your side. Like, like wherever my soul is in whatever dimension you are, I hope you're having a much better day than this dimension. I'm like,
yeah. I'll give you, since we're talking about topics that are really far out there, I'll give you a little topic of something that's been happening to me more and more lately, and I'm finding it's been there for the past few years. But the only thing that I can describe that is I'm being contacted from a descendant of mine from what we would consider the future. So for
Yes.
whatever it is within this line of lives that I'm in right now, I'm at some kind of focal point, and they're reaching out to me to not only assist me through my hard times that I'm going through, but I think they're also learning from me, like just how we would like try and like channel like Edgar Casey or someone like that. You know what I mean?
Oh
But the
wow.
name I believe is Liley, like Lailee. Liley is I believe the name.
Mm.
Wow.
And so it's really, really interesting that because when I this is a name that comes through sometimes and I verify this isn't a gin. This isn't like something that needs to cross over. They're like, from what I understand, they're alive right now. And there's somewhere that's alive that's in another time frame than what I'm at right
Totally, yeah.
That is awesome.
Hmm. I
You're the first
actually,
person
that's
I've heard talk
amazing.
about the future, and I believe all of that. That is
now. All
so
I can understand is they're a descendant of me. Somehow, some way, they're a descendant.
Mhm. That's amazing. That's one of the things I sometimes wonder with my dad, because after I laid him to rest the following year, now it's like I don't want to say I don't feel him around as much because I know he's always around me, but I truly feel like he's transitioned, and I really feel like he's doing something in business and making money, because whenever I need help with a business decision, he'll come through and an idea will come to me and I'll be like, oh, that makes sense, like tax stuff and paperwork and all that, and like business ideas, like with my marketing team and stuff. And I'll get stuck at something and I'll be like, oh, screw it, I'll just let them figure it out. And every time he'll come through and it'll be something that he wouldn't know. Like he did run his own business, but it's like that was 20 years ago. This is like current stuff that I could do now that he wouldn't have known about when he had his business when he was living. You know what I mean? So I know it's
yeah.
from somewhere else. And I'll be like, Dad, oh my God, that's brilliant. Okay. And then I'll like reach out to my marketing team and they'll go, oh, that's a good idea. And I'll think, holy shit, like
Yep.
he's
He's
that
got your
way.
back.
Yeah,
You know what?
you know what I mean? And it's like all I can do is go, he's over there. Like it's the weirdest feeling because he comes through, but I know he's coming from another lifetime because he's got wisdom from
Mhm.
something else. It's totally trippy.
Did
Well, I
did he like
feel
drinking coffee a lot?
Yeah, every morning he drank
Because I,
coffee.
because I can see him like this holding up going,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that's
He
right.
had a cup
That's
every
right.
morning. Dr. Pepper and coffee.
That is so
That was his
funny.
drink.
Well, listen,
Rock
I
star.
know, Nick, we're just gonna have to bring you back on because it's like, holy shit, it's already been an hour, but we're gonna have to coordinate again this month because I would love to bring you back on to talk about the reincarnation and talk about,
Mhm.
like you were saying, like that karmic debt and karmic overlay, maybe helping people understand a little bit about that because I love talking about former lives and
Sure.
all
Sure.
of that jazz and how that
Absolutely.
like that whole ancestral, like, oh my gosh, that's why when I said please say it louder for the people in the back, like, and I've talked to Shanell about this. I mean, we could talk forever and ever, but definitely I had when I pop off with a customer, when I'm like, when I let them my son gets sick every single time. He either gets a runny nose or a cough, and I'm like, son of a bitch, because the energy goes boop boop. You know what I mean? Like whatever you're putting out
Mhm.
there. But I mean, we could talk about this forever and ever. But I want to touch more on that. And then obviously like the reincarnation and other lives and how that's coming through. Because all that clearing that we could do with your pendulums, clearing out that stuff. Oh, I'm just like so cold now. Everybody dropped in for the party. Hello, guys.
Yeah.
Woo! We decided to
Well, if you don't mind, I'm extending the invitation to him right now because there's three. There's one to your right, and two actually would be one to behind your left shoulder, which is the grandma, and then you have another two on the right hand side. One being a male, one being a very tall person, also there, which I have an idea of who I think that is. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend the invitation. If they want some help, they can just kind of come to me right now. Do you feel it in your chest?
yeah.
Me too. Okay.
Is it the
So
big
that
guy?
feeling right there,
Is he wearing a warrior outfit?
yes.
Yeah. And then the other
He
tall
looks
one,
like he he looks like the one that like brought them here.
she's the tall one.
No, she's
No?
standing in front of your tarot sign.
Oh, okay. But Oh, okay. There's two. I thought you said there's three out there. I thought there was another female ancestor. Yeah. Is there another female
You
next?
got one here, you got one here, and another one behind. So either way, I'm gonna help. I'm gonna send some offer to them to help. So when we get a chance to talk, I'll just go ahead and say this right now. I'm in the middle of making my third book about the jinn. And what this book is going to be about is my perspective on these things. I'll get into a little bit of history of them, but I don't want to make this a history book about the jinn. There's other good books out there about that. Mine's going to talk about these methods that I've developed that work exclusively with the jinn and with the ha breath. And the one thing I'll tell you with it is that we have an ability to pull things to us. And when these things know that we have this ability, we bypass all of our guides. We bypass any kind of spiritual protection or overlaying boundaries, because when we decide to do this, we're connecting on a soul level. So when people say, I don't want to, attract jinn or bring this kind of stuff to me, they're not the only ones that you can attract. And I'll give you a taste of one of the topics that I've learned to do this with. Someone says, hey, I got stuff in my house. I can do this one or two ways. Send me a photo of the house, or I'll just close my eyes and I'll say, please take me to what I need to see. Take me to the house I need to go. And then I'll get an image of something in the house. And you know that singing bowl sound, right? You know that sound? Think about that sound in your head as you're visualizing being in this house. And then I just imagine taking my finger up and I go, boop, and I touch it and I touch and I create the ripples that go off in the house. And as I'm doing this, my breath is, it's nice and easy. It's nice and calm, almost like waves of an ocean. So what happens is, rather than me having to walk through their house and find these things, all I do is I step in, think about that sound, then I go, boop, and it hits it like a sonar. And it comes back. And so my book's going to talk about how to do some of this stuff. And what happens, you do that, you get their attention, you see their little heads poke up, and all of a sudden, bam, now you can just say, hey, if you need some help, you can come with me. And then I just bring them right to my house and they're right in my living room, and I start doing the work on them. So believe me when I tell you, the ability to connect and clear is extremely fluid. And it's something that is, there's almost no boundaries to it when you're that way. And so you can easily pull stuff to you very easily. One of the things I like doing with my kids that I coach, right? I coach football, I coach wrestling. A lot of people don't know I do this stuff, so I'll just tell you about it because we can. I'll get these kids, 100 kids, 300 kids, 500 kids, whatever. I'll get them in front of me and I'll say, hey, we got this tournament coming up. We got this game coming up. I want you guys to visualize getting all your stuff ready, getting it ready to go for this game. So at that point, all of these kids are thinking about their house. And at that point, I start tapping into everything. And then from there, boop, all of their houses, I get all their attention, and then I can draw it all to me. You can clear
fucking genius, Nick.
hundreds of stuff.
That's cheating. You all win if their energies are good. No, I'm just kidding.
No, what happens is these kids that are shy and these kids that are bashful, or kids that have anger, emotional issues, all of a sudden the parents come up and they're like, oh my God, Timmy loves football. He's actually getting ready. He's nice to us. Oh my gosh, we love wrestling. Da, da, da. These kids are really starting to grow. And he was like, okay, cool. It's wrestling. That's good. So these are some of the things that I do behind the scenes that might freak some people out, but in the long run, it's meant to help you and your family.
Yeah, I do stuff like that for my races. When I bonk in my Ironmans, not gonna lie, I'll be going down a mountain, and it's freezing rain or whatever, and I'm on my 100 on a 112-mile bike ride, and I'll start pulling stuff in to revive me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And clear whatever's attached to me that's causing me to be tired. Because sometimes I'll feel fatigued and tired, but it's not because of my body, it's because my mental state is depleting, because I'm burned out. I don't want to ride my bike anymore, but it's a race. We have 112 miles to go, and I'll do that. I'll pull stuff in just to help, or I'll visualize red light, because I know red light is a very healing light in the human body. So I'll visualize my body just pulling in red light, and I do some very similar things, and it works, because your energy shifts, and it's like it reawakens it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's amazing. I did that on
my first half marathon. You taught me that. I was like,
yeah.
Tip is not. I was like, come on, Raphael. Come on, Archangel Raphael. I'm like,
yeah, come to the party.
Yes. That is so cool, though. Your book, because I'm going to list, guys, all of his links. Please go check out his YouTube videos. I have one of his books that I use for a lot of my clearings. it helps, like you said, to find the entities, but that's a whole nother podcast. One of your books,
totally.
like finding and clearing and
Mhm.
pulling them out. And I know you have more pendulums. We definitely didn't hit on all of them. So you're gonna have to come back then on
No, no, we didn't talk about the ether one. That's one that you're gonna like. And people say, "What's the ether good for?" I'll give it to you in a nutshell. It's an orange frequency. You can do the same thing with balancing the digestive and reproductive system. But what I found different about the ether pendulum, the shape of the pendulum is also from Antiquitech. The shape of this is what you would call the perfect harmonic of love. And so you basically, if you're into energy vibrational healing, it's good for that. But what I found works really, really good is I can tap into someone's subconscious, and if there is an entity that is attached there, I can extract it.
That's with the ether one. Okay.
And then you have like the Paladin, which is one that's used for like Ho'oponopono, which that usually takes a little bit longer to talk about how to use that correctly and stuff. So, kind of getting back to what you said, I've tried going off on a lot of different tangents and a lot of different areas with the pendulum just to kind of get an experience and understanding. And the only thing I present to you is my findings. A lot of stuff I didn't read this in books. A lot of stuff I've just kind of been trial and error with different things and then following up with people on how well it affected, No, there's never going to be a perfect scenario. It's always very, very different. The only thing I say is that when you use a pendulum, you use it to help develop your intuition. You use your intuition to help guide you, and that will help give you more answers than you asking anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%, Nick, because I do the same thing. A lot of the stuff I do, I didn't read about it. I taught myself. And there's so many different modalities that I'll use. And like your pendulum stuff, I followed everything you said, but there's other stuff I'll do. I'll just do it in my mind. And people be like, "Oh my God, I can feel it. How'd you do that?" And I'm like, someone out in realms was telling me what to do. Like I just intuitively reached out to something or whatever, I'm working on. And it's amazing to do that because it magnifies the modality of the healing, but it also amplifies the energy because you're tapping into something new. It's like a new source of healing or a new source of clearing. You know what I mean? So it's cool that you have like your own way and your own technique that you just did through trial and error. I love that. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
Next episode, we go over ancestral clearing. If we can go over emotions, organs, and being empathic and how those connect with each other, I think that would be a great topic because there's a lot of people out there that get phantom pains, that get all sorts of stuff. They'll go get their spleen looked at to see it's fine. They'll get a lower back pain, but they're fine. They'll get heart palpitations, but they're fine.
In every session.
What does all that mean? I would love to go over that in the next session.
Oh, I'd be down for that too, because within the medical medium sessions, I see that like in every client, like I find all their pains and stuff, but everything they go to for doctors, there's nothing. It all comes back fine. And they're like, "Why am I feeling this?" And I go boop, 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 boop. And I go through and I find all the traumas and down the ancestral line. And yeah, it's incredible what we can hold in our body physically that is totally connected to something in a trauma or ancestral realm or whatever. It's amazing. I'd totally be down for that.
My mom couldn't breathe for like more than that, 10 years. We lived in the military. So MRIs, CAT scans, they kept telling her she was crazy. As soon as her and my dad got divorced, all of a sudden the woman could breathe again. Oh, don't say.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You just got to get all that weight off of your chest, literally and figuratively. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. My divorce with the boy's dad.
Was his dad?
What?
Was his dad smaller in stature with glasses?
He was Mexican. He was small in stature. When he passed away, he wore glasses. They were more like reading glasses.
That's the dude that's right there. That's the dude that's with the bigger guy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Remember when we were talking about forgiveness?
Yeah.
I think this has a little bit to do with it.
That would make sense. That's my Mexican grandfather. Yeah. That makes sense.
I can taste the alcohol. So no. So be compassionate, be full of love. If he wants help, he's more than welcome to come here. But I think you guys can make a connection and kind of go from there. And then when he's ready, if you need some help, just reach out, okay?
Yeah, because I just got cold again. Yeah. All right, good. So we're bringing you back on again, everybody. So don't be upset. Next one, we'll we're gonna continue this one because this was a good one. I'm like, damn, what time? We go.
Yeah,
on.
we went on for an hour and a half.
I know, and Nick was
it.
so awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, he like,
yeah, it's really good.
You know what I mean? He was doing his dad stuff and pulled over, and this is like, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick, for your time. So grateful.
Something right now.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yes,
It's been a lot of fun, but let's get together again soon. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll see you guys, and we'll get that for the listeners, and we'll get that together for you because this was definitely a treat. I let lots of notes, and I'll put all of his links, all of his stuff, and please check out his YouTube channel and all of the wonderful stuff that he posts. So thank you, Nick, so much.
Yeah, thanks
help
a
me
lot.
get that information out there. Follow that channel, please. Help me get that information out there because I know it'll help somebody. And if you guys got any requests, like, hey, can you cover this topic? Hey, can you cover this? Like, let me know. I like taking on requests because then it helps kind of guide my ADD. You know what I mean? Because I'll go all over the place.
Totally. I feel you.
You just had 3 ADD people on this. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to listen to this playback. Pendulums, dead people, gin.
Ancestors, forgiveness. We covered a lot.
I fully support the ADD energy. I learned so much from it. I always in my sessions, don't mind me, I might bounce around a bit. That's my polite way of saying I'm ADD as fuck, and I'm going to be all over the place. But at the end, you're going to feel amazing, and there'll be healing. Bear with me.
Come back.
You are not alone.
Yeah,
totally. 100%.
All right, guys.
That's why we're so good.
Yes, so much. And yeah, we'll bring Nick back on for sure. Thank you, Nick, so much.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, guys. Love what you